Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ahead of the Chains. I'm Patrick Seifert, joined by Mike DeFrancisco. How are you doing, Mike?
I am doing good. It was a very hectic, last 72, 96 hours of the NFL football calendar.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm ready to jump into it. I mean, there are things that happened in the last 4 days that I've never seen that I didn't think were comprehensible. The NFL, I tell my girlfriend this all the time, right? Because she loves like the reality shows. She loves like Jersey Shore and the Kardashians. I try to tell her, I was like, you should get into football because it is the best reality TV show on planet Earth. She doesn't believe me. And as evidenced by what we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, this is the best reality television on planet Earth. I mean, on a night when Team Italy beats the United States in baseball, and on a night
Didn't
when
even know
Bam
that happened.
Adebayo, yeah, and on a night when Bam Adebayo scores 83 points,
That
breaking
one I
Kobe
know
Bryant's
about.
record for the most of all time. I don't count Will Chamberlain. I have a conspiracy theory that he didn't actually score 100. That's a separate topic. Maxx Crosby was the guy who dominated the sports cycle on that day. So it just shows you, even in March, even in mid March, football is dominating, and they are the best reality TV show on earth. So, like I said, I'm excited to get into it all. But again, this is just further proof that football reigns supreme.
Yeah, and I mean, Max Crosby was the cause of the first ever live show that we've done for this show,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Emergency. Yeah.
Emergency episode.
Yeah.
We would have been better off just doing nothing, getting wasted on Friday night because
We
it
would have.
came, nothing came out of it.
Nothing came out of it.
Because it
We
was
spent all this time.
before, because it was
Yeah.
just during the tampering period, because the season hasn't officially started. The trade wasn't official, which means both teams could just go out of it whenever they wanted. And that's exactly what Baltimore did, right?
Yeah.
Now, what did they do 24 hours later? Not even. They signed Trey Hendrickson, who just so happens to be the best edge rusher on the market. So it's a little bit fishy,
Yeah, a little
but
bit.
supposedly it was because Maxx Crosby failed his physical. I don't know how you look at this, but I'm going to be entirely honest, right? I see a team that desperately needs an edge rusher, right? And they added it in Maxx Crosby. They thought that was the only way to get an edge rusher at a reasonable price, even though 2 first rounders doesn't really sound like a reasonable price, but to them it was for a player of that caliber. Then they saw Trey Hendrickson's market wasn't what they thought it was going to be. Trey Hendrickson was way cheaper than they thought he was going to be. So all of a sudden, the Ravens are saying, hey, why are we giving up 2 first rounders for Maxx Crosby when we could get Trey Hendrickson for just, roughly 30 million a year? And that I think is why they failed him on his physical, which by the way, the doctor for the team makes the call. You could have the best physical on earth. The team doctor can decide to fail you. There is no like a set number, set 40 times, set this, set that you have to run. You don't have to be physically capable of anything specific. You just have to be cleared by the team doctors. And the Ravens team doctors didn't. I think they were looking for an escape and a valid reason to tell the media for them to back out of that trade as they pursued Trey Hendrickson in free agency.
Yeah, to start with the less interesting, the 2 points you made about the doctors. The infamous example of this is Drew Brees, right? The Dolphins were signed him. He was going to pair up with Nick Saban. They were about to put pen to paper, and then they failed him on his physical. And then, of course, he went to New Orleans and had a Hall of Fame career. So you're right. Team doctors can infiltrate and can, kind of override or veto something of this caliber. And, we know that Maxx Crosby did miss the last couple of games towards the end of the season for the Raiders. But I'm with you, Patrick. I think that this is a total con job by Eric DaCosta. And yes, I'm saying con job. I think it's absolutely fair to say that they got cold feet after they saw the market for Trey Hendrickson. I think it's absolutely fair to say that after they lost Tyler Linderbaum, ironically to the Raiders, they had a sense of, oh, maybe we're more than just one guy away. Maybe we're more than just one player away. The thing that adds fuel to my conspiracy fire here is it's not like the Ravens didn't check up on him and his knee before making the trade. Like they knew the situation. You know that a guy who is X amount of days post surgery is not going to be 100%. So that was something that they knew they were going to have to assume the risk of. He is not going to be physically able to perform today. Right? Like that was never going to happen. It's mid-March. The season ended just a couple of months ago. The timeline for him was always he's hopefully going to be ready by July for training camp, OTAs, et cetera, et cetera. So to, like you said, have a physical failed, it really does seem like an escape goer. Again, you add more fire to that by the fact that they signed Trey Hendrickson like the next morning, which just that made everybody like roll their eyes. And according to Eric DaCosta, which I'm sure we'll talk about his press conference in just a second, but he said, "Oh, the plan was to sign both of them." Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right. Because Maxx Crosby's agents are now leaking that you were going to give him a new contract, so you were going to drop 250 million on two edge rushers. I don't believe that for 1 second. So this seems like a total con job by Eric DeCosta and the Ravens. The Ravens, who are known pretty universally as a competent, well-run organization, this is a big stain on them because I don't imagine the league or Roger Goodell or anything comes down with any punishment. But I bet you a player, I bet you another organization thinks twice before dealing with the Ravens after the stuff that they just pulled with Maxx Crosby.
That might be true, but I'm going
Yeah,
to be entirely honest here. I do think a lot of people are overreacting, saying that this is some terribly evil move by the Baltimore Ravens.
I don't think it's evil. I
The
think it's
trade
slimy.
what the
That's the
trade
word I would
wasn't
use.
official. Any trade that happens before the season starts can be retracted whenever.
I
Whenever.
agree, but it's
So
also
the
the principle of it, though. It's the
yeah, I
principle
get
of it.
it. So it's a little bit morally questionable, but they didn't break a rule. There
No, they
was no
didn't.
rules being broken.
No, they
They
didn't.
didn't tamper. They talked to Hendrickson after free agency opened, right? Did they talk to him while they still had, well, to the same extent that everyone else does,
Right.
right? You did air quotes right there for the audio listeners.
Yeah.
Everyone tampers. Everyone's
Exactly.
tampering.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I mean, the Ravens just kind of did what everyone else can do. They were kind of just the first ones with the balls to do it, right?
But
And does that mean some teams are now going to look at them and say, I don't want to trade with them? Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it just means from now on, deals like the Trent McDuffie deal happen a little bit later,
I
which
was gonna
means
say that.
all of a sudden free agency gets even crazier.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think that's part of the repercussion of this is next year, whoever the Maxx Crosby equivalent is, top guy on the market that's going to get you a first plus, is going to be traded after free agency, just so the league year is official, so that everything can be, all the I's can be dotted, all the T's can be crossed. There's no, pulling out last second like the Ravens did. Again, I think it's different if you're swapping seventh rounders for a backup offensive lineman and you come in and his knees banged up, we're going to call off the trade. That's different. When a guy like Maxx Crosby, you cannot tell me that if you were willing to give up 2 first-round picks, you did not do your due diligence. So where in that it changed, and where in that 24-hour, 48-hour span it changed, I think raised some questions. And really, what I think changed is the Trey Hendrickson market just wasn't what it was. Like, he got
What it
less
was
than Jalen
expected to be.
Phillips, who
Yeah.
we all say is a much younger, yes, but much more risky signing. I mean, Trey Hendrickson has proven continually that he is one of the best sack getters in the NFL. Jalen Phillips has not. So you pair that with the fact that Baltimore now can keep their 2 first-round picks, get a guy who is probably 80% of what Maxx Crosby is as a pass rusher. He's like 25% of what he is as a run defender, but he's like 80% of what he is as a pass rusher. And, you can it doesn't take a tinfoil hat to like put these together. It doesn't take an Alex Jones like level conspiracy theorist to say something's not right here. So to do that and to get the whole league amped and to get this thing deflated, it's a stain on the Ravens. It's a stain on Eric DeCosta. It's a stain on the NFL because, again, you cannot tell me that the Ravens did not have any idea how bad his knee was, didn't have any idea that he probably wasn't going to pass a physical in early March. Like, you just can't tell me that. Teams are not that stupid. They do more due diligence than that. They call doctors. I mean, even we don't even think about this. I was reading an article earlier today. Some team doctors are even talking to each other. Like the Cowboys team doctor is the guy who did Patrick Mahomes' ACL surgery. So doctors are not necessarily affiliated just by teams, right? They're hopefully here for the betterment of every player's health. And so doctors are communicating and teams and GMs. It's this whole like interwoven thing. And you cannot tell me that at one point they didn't say, yeah, we're comfortable with the knee. We're good. Giving up 2 first. Max is worth it. And then all of a sudden, Trey Hendrickson's available, and they're like, actually, no, we're not comfortable with the knee. We're gonna pull the rug out of the trade. That just it doesn't fly by me. I'm sorry.
Now, here's the question. The morality aside, which I know that's tough to do. It's tough to put yourself in this situation and ignore the expected noise. And you are criticizing DaCosta and his decision. Uh, but if you ignore what's screwed up about the entire thing, would you rather have the 2 first rounders and sign Trey Hendrickson to that deal, or still trade away the 2 first rounders for Maxx Crosby? What do you
Oh,
think makes the better team?
I'd most definitely rather have Trey Hendrickson in the picks, but like you said, it's the principle of it, right? I
Mhm.
mean, not only did it screw maybe what the league was doing. I think the Raiders are real victims here. I'm not gonna lie, and I never thought I'd say that.
Oh yeah, I feel
I
so
mean,
bad
they
for them. But
spent
again, they agreed to a trade before. Like, should you be expecting this to happen? No. But this is a possible reality when you do one of these trades. It is. It
yeah.
sucks, but it's how it works.
I mean, it's kind of like booking a guy for a freelance gig, having him show up, having him do all the work, and then he sends the work and he's like, all right, just zell me, whatever. And then you just never zell him. And it's like, well, all his time was wasted. All his energy was wasted. Now the Raiders, they go out and they spend $280 million in free agency. Now it clearly didn't. They had just, this is the best part of this is because this could have been an absolute disaster. If the Raiders were tight on cap and they just re-added Maxx Crosby to their books, which is $30 million, this could have been a blow up league altering disaster for the NFL. Thankfully, the Raiders have so much money. They have like FU money. They're like, all right, Maxx Crosby, welcome back. We just spent basically $300 million in free agency. Who cares? So from that regard, the league is lucky, and the Ravens are lucky, I think. But how weird is it now that they traded away Maxx Crosby? They said, all right, you're going to Baltimore, and then they're like, welcome back. Like,
Well,
I
and
still
now
think
they're saying they're
they're
going to
saying
keep
he's a
him
Raider.
around.
I don't buy that.
Yeah, they trade him again, even if it's not for 2 first rounders. I think he gets
That's the other
dished,
problem, though.
right?
That's the other
All
problem.
the other teams brought in their edge rushers.
Well, that's the other problem is other teams brought in edge rushers, A, and B, now you have this cloud looming over him that's the failed physical. Nobody's going to give you 2 first-round picks now. So what? You're going to trade Maxx Crosby for 50 cents on the dollar?
I
I
think
don't know.
everyone thinks about it the same way we do and says, man, it's DeCosta. It's DeCosta pulling strings because he saw the Trey Hendrickson market. The failed physical means nothing. I
But
really think
even
about it
if
that way.
he's slimy, even if they don't like what he did, which it sounds like people around the league are pissed about this, rightfully so. I mean, with a guy with a failed physical, you'd be a stupid negotiator if you said, "Yeah, remember what we negotiated before you went with Baltimore? We'll just give you that trade." The price goes down now. Undoubtedly, the price goes down. So, are the Raiders again willing to give up Maxx Crosby for 75-80% of what they got from the Ravens? I don't know. That complicates the situation. So I'm still pretty confident that he'll get traded and that he won't be a Raider by August. But now, man, I don't know. I don't know if they'll accept a weaker offer than what they got from Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Crosby's snap counts right now because I think that kind of tells you all you have to know about the legitimacy of whether or not Crosby is in shape. And I mean, just looking at the numbers right now, before he got benched with an injury that he was heavily infuriated about missing time with, it was an injury that he actively said he wanted to play through and he shouldn't have been off the field. He was infuriated by it. We're looking at not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 straight games with an 100% snap count on the defensive side of the ball. Game before that, 97% of snaps. And the game before that, 100 again. Game before that, 96. I mean, this is a guy that was on the field damn near every snap. I have no question about whether or not he's physically able to stay on the field. No question
And
about it.
and again, like it's just so stupid to me. You know the guy got surgery in the offseason, and you know what the surgery was. Originally, it was supposed to just be a trim. Then they had to get a little more invasive. Like you knew this, so to bank on him being healthy in March, again, like that's why I'm saying they wouldn't have made the trade in the first place had they not known the timeline. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, he fails the physical. Yeah, no shit, he failed the physical. He had knee surgery like 2 months ago. So I'm just it's just again slimy, but from the repercussion blow up in your face part of it, the Raiders again are lucky that they just had so much money that adding Maxx Crosby back doesn't really hurt. And ironically, they didn't go out and sign a big pass rusher, which is interesting now because
They brought in Quiddy Pay. They paid someone.
I said big edge rusher, not Dio Adangbo 2.0, but I don't think that the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders are a better team, and on March of 2026 with Maxx Crosby, the Raiders are worse off in 2027, 2028 though without this trade, and that's the crappy part for them. Hopefully they can find another partner, but again, I don't think that they're going to get 2 first-round picks for him again. I think maybe now it's a first and a second. Maybe it's a first and a really good young player. Like I don't think they'll get 2 firsts.
What team do you think is in the market now? Because we saw Odafe Owe
Chicago.
get paid $100 million by the Commanders.
I think it's Chicago or bust.
Really? You're locked in on that.
Everybody
do you think
else,
the Cowboys could pair Rashawn Gary with Maxx Crosby?
I think from a logistical standpoint, yes. I think from a cap standpoint, no. I don't think you can
You don't think they
detonate.
could renegotiate that Dak deal though? Free up some money.
I mean, Dak and CD and Quinn
Yeah.
Williams.
And then the
They
issue
wanted
is you need to restructure Crosby's deal. Like
yeah
Crosby's gonna
restructure
ask for a new
Crosby,
deal.
which I mean, it sounded like if he was gonna be a Raven, that they were gonna rip up his contract and give him a new one. So maybe Dallas does that and they give him a big signing bonus, whatever, do whatever manipulation. But when I look at it from a who really needs an edge rusher that didn't fill their need in free agency or trade, it's the Bears. I mean, the Bills spent big money on edge rusher. The Commanders spent big money on edge rusher. Edge rusher. Panthers did. The Cowboys traded for Gary. The Bears made minor moves at edge rusher. Now, you anticipate them doing something in the draft, of course, but when you combine a team that was in the sweepstakes to begin with, the Bears, and all the other teams now are kind of fizzled out of it, I think they do make a whole lot of sense. I really do think that it might be the Bears as the only team. And that, again, goes back to my point where I don't think the Raiders are getting too first because I think that the Bears are not going to negotiate against themselves, right? They were negotiating against half the league the first time around. Now, a lot of these teams have filled their need at edge. They might be scared off by the medicals, this, that, whatever. I don't know that the Bears are going to be bidding against as many teams as they were last time. So to me, the Bears make the most sense once again. They made the most sense the first time, but Baltimore had a pick 11 picks higher than they did this year, so they won the bid, obviously. But now it's like, all right, I think it's I really do think it's Chicago or bust. I'm going to be honest.
I just look at a lot of teams that are probably pissed that they signed an edge rusher right now. I imagine the Panthers, with the money they would pay Jalen Phillips, they would have loved to give that to Max
Dude, the
Crosby, even if
Commanders
they
got
had
to
to
be
give up
pissed
some
too. They
cap.
just gave 100 million to Dafe away.
Oh my
so,
god,
yeah, I'm
a
so, like
hundred
sorry,
percent.
but sorry,
Yeah,
like
I mean, like the the Chargers are a team that can maybe do it. Like that's in
they wouldn't trade
play.
him in
Like they
division.
have the money,
They
huh?
wouldn't trade him in division.
Well, that becomes the issue. You're right.
Yeah,
That becomes a
yeah,
huge part of the
yeah, yeah,
issue.
yeah. I was about
Uh,
to say Chiefs, and then I was like, well, no,
but the
they're not
Chiefs
going to
don't
give him
have
the
the
Chiefs.
money. Like the
They don't have
Chargers
the
have
money.
58 million and they're good in cap space next year. The Ravens are
I was
second in cap
surprised that they
space
didn't
still,
spend more.
but
Honestly,
the
God, I was
Ravens
very surprised.
definitely aren't going to do something to bring him in
Dude,
anymore
somebody
now.
said, I think it was Emmanuel Acho, who is just the greatest take artist of all time, send Maxx Crosby back to the Ravens and just like reduce the price. And it's like, yeah, we're just gonna give the Ravens a discount because
Yeah,
EDC massively effed us over. Yeah, you know what? Take
but
40% off, man. It's a yard sale.
this
Just take
goes
whatever you want.
back. This kind of goes back to what we talked about when the news first happened. If the Raiders don't see like a great return for Maxx Crosby, let's say like looking at these teams, none of them are really ideal spots for Crosby, and no team is willing to give up like a first rounder and a second for him, then they don't have an issue keeping him around. They really don't. Like, there's nothing wrong with keeping around a good player that's been with the Raiders that could tell the young guys, hey, trust the process. Hey, I know that news reporter that works for the Las Vegas Post can be an asshole. Here's how I like to deal with him. Like, having a guy that's been around and can also help you win games is a big thing. Even when you have a young team that's on more of the rebuilding side of things, having a legitimate presence that's been with the team and will also be like a motivator in that locker room, that helps a lot. It does help a
Yeah,
young team. It might not be
there's
two
worse.
first rounders, but it helps.
There's worse problems to have than to reacquire Maxx Crosby. I'll say that.
Yeah.
There's worse problems to have, but I just don't know that Maxx Crosby's prime or his ability to impact winning at a really really high level like he is coincides with what the Raiders timeline is going to be with Fernando Mendoza. I mean
Now,
they spent money like they're going to be competitive next year. I don't know if that's the case, but to me I'm looking at 2027, 2028. You follow the kind of the Caleb Williams, Drake May mold from the last couple of years where it's like rookie year, he's getting his feet wet, he's figuring out how to play quarterback, and then year two, you see this big increase. And then year three, our team sees a big increase, like the Bills did with Josh Allen, et cetera, et cetera. So I just don't know. Like, are you wanting to keep Maxx Crosby on board for another 3 years and then maybe in year four you guys are good? Like, I don't know. I think Maxx Crosby does the Raiders the best by giving them two really high picks and letting them get younger and letting them get better and rebuilding the Raiders. Again, there's worse problems to have than to get Maxx Crosby. I get it, and I'm not arguing against that, but um, I think he is better. He is best suited to get them draft picks than he is as a pure player at this point for them.
I would agree. I would agree, but that's only if you're getting that type of pick, right? What if again it's just you being offered one first rounder? Is that enough? Is one first rounder enough to give up Maxx Crosby? I don't think so. I
No,
don't.
I don't think it'll be one first rounder. I think the Bears will call and say we'll give you pick 25 and we'll give you either a third this year or a second next year.
Well, you're saying the Bears, but the Bears right now have $2 million in cap space.
Yeah, they'll. Well, that's what I'm saying. They'll have to. I think that if there's an opportunity for Maxx Crosby, like they'll make it work. I do imagine that.
I think at one point they were trying to, but now they've spent.
They didn't spend big in free agency though. They
But
spent.
they spent big enough where they can't really dig themselves out of the hole, at least for this offseason, I don't think. Not enough to bring in a Crosby. I don't think so.
I mean, you're probably right, but at the same time, I do think with a guy like Crosby, you figure it out. Like you just figure it out. I think so.
I don't know. I'm looking at the teams. I see like New England, maybe. New England, that'd be cool. If New
New
England
England would
does
be
that, that'd
really
be
cool.
awesome.
I also think, are they still in like the AJ Brown sweepstakes? Are we talking about New England not keeping their
I would
first
opt
rounder
out of
there?
that just to go to the Crosby sweepstakes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is
I'll
true.
deal
That
with
is true.
Romeo Dobbs, my wide receiver one, if it means Maxx Crosby is my edge
Yeah,
rusher on the
that
other
is
side.
that is probably a good trade off there. I won't lie. That
Yeah.
is probably a good trade off. I mean, what I'm trying to think what other teams because like Dallas, I think they're out. Jacksonville, we heard was in. Are they still in?
I mean, Jackson. You're right. Jacksonville was in at one point, but right now they're over the cap right now,
Yeah,
so it's hard
yeah.
to go
So
with them.
okay,
But you're right. They showed interest at one point. Maybe we
okay.
could see a team rework cap.
Yeah.
It's very possible, but that could also really bite a team
I
in
mean,
the
the
butt.
Bears could. I'm sure they could extend somebody and free up cap for this year, or then rip up his contract and give a new one. I'm like,
Mhm.
I think with a player like Maxx Crosby, you kind of say to hell with everything. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I
So
think
that
that is fair. Ravens now have Trey Hendrickson. We'll see what happens there. I'm excited to see what they do with that 14th overall pick, considering it was valuable enough for them to go ahead and make Eric DaCosta the the arch rival of
public enemy
every
number one.
GM.
Yep.
Yeah, public enemy number one. Uh, but now I want to move over into some of the best free agency classes, right? Because there's a lot of great free agent individual signings, right? A lot of great ones. But what teams have done it consistently? What teams have consistently brought in a bunch of good hirings or a bunch of good players? So, free agency classes, right? A lot of teams are able to hit on one free agent signing, maybe two, maybe even three. But how many teams are able to string together a good, solid free agent class? We've seen with a team like the Patriots, right? What can happen when you string together a bunch of great free agent signings? Well, the number one team I look at, we're doing a draft here, right? We're both picking three teams. The first team I want to pick, right, is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders. Taron Johnson, I know that doesn't count because they traded for him, but that is worth mentioning. Still a very good slot corner. I know he's older now, kind of lost a step, but he's like a textbook slot corner and a nice veteran to add. But besides that, the free agent signings, you're looking at Tyler Linderbaum, the best center in football. When you're adding a guy, I mean, we talked about it earlier this week. When you add a guy who is the single best player at their respective position, it is a lot easier for guys to buy in because all of a sudden you are playing against, maybe you're playing against the 49ers and you're looking at Fred Warner. Oh, they have the best off ball linebacker in football. Or even a team like the Browns that isn't very good. You're looking at them and you're saying, man, they're not very good, but at least they have Myles Garrett. Oh, how do we stop them? But at least you could say, you know what? We have the best center in football, right? And that just makes you feel like, you're in the same league. And all of a sudden, any given Sunday, you're capable of beating anyone because you have a guy like Linderbaum on your team. Did they overpay him? Yes, but I think it is valid for them to have overpaid him because they have all this money and because of how much he's going to do. I mean, we saw last year, Ashton Jeanty, every time he touched the football, got clobbered. Clobbered every time he touched the ball. He couldn't get past the line of scrimmage. It just wasn't working. Now he has a legitimate center that is going to move people off the line of scrimmage and also protect Mendoza. Quiddy Pay is a player that I like a decent amount. He doesn't reinvent the wheel, but He's someone that'll set the edge pretty well. He's someone who will get to the quarterback fine. He's just generally an edge rusher that does the job at a starting caliber level. Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, that's two linebackers that I like, two younger guys and two guys that complement each other well. Quay Walker is more of that true like Mike linebacker that's going to, step up against the run, fill a gap, tackle a guy. And Nakobe Dean is more of the will linebacker. That's going to be a great coverage guy. You could trust him covering a slot. Let's say you're against a 3-by-1. Someone has to get that third receiver. You could trust Nakobe Dean to do that. He is that caliber athlete. But he could also, go around blockers and stuff the run in that sense. Jalen Naylor, the receiver, I'm a really big fan of his. I've been a big fan of him. I think the Vikings have been a receiver factory very quietly, and Naylor is just going to be another product of that. If they go into the season with him as the wide receiver 1, I feel fine about it. I do, mainly because Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer are there. That's the main reason. But I do think Naylor as your primary outside threat can work decently fine. I do. So overall, it's a free agent class that I like. It is. Jalen Naylor, I think was one of the underrated weapons in free agency. And same with Nakobe Dean. I mean, he's not getting paid an overwhelming amount. I really like that 3-year, $36 million. It's a lot of pretty nice contracts. Even though they overpaid some of these guys, the Raiders have the ability to do exactly that.
Yeah, no, I like the Raiders. They probably would have been my first pick. The Tyler Linderbaum signing was so good, it got them Maxx Crosby back, so that has to be the signing of the offseason, clearly. But I am actually, for my first draft pick, I'm going to go with the team that actually just now, as of about 40 seconds ago, dropped their new uniforms and their new logo, and it looks tight. It validated my draft pick. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans were horrible last year. Surprise. I don't know if you guys were watching football at all. They had a lot of holes to fill. Now, free agency, I don't see free agency necessarily as the time to go out and throw so much money around at very few players, right? I think you're better off a lot of times plugging holes in free agency and adding a few really quality players, which is what I think the Titans did. Let me read you the list of players that they acquired. First off, MVP Mitch Trubisky. I'm already at number 1, but they added Wan'Dale Robinson. Finally got Cam Ward, a legitimate NFL wide receiver. Don't think he'll go into the year as being his wide receiver 1 because, he's 5'8" and he's probably not built to be a consistent down in and down out receiver. But Wan'Dale Robinson is a good receiver who I think will add to this Tennessee offense who didn't have any last year. Daniel Bellinger's a fine tight end. They traded for Jermaine Johnson, who I know we're not supposed to count trades, but I'm going to just throw it in there as well. Jacob Martin, I thought was a quality signing, 2 years, $11 million. But I want to talk about a few signings in particular. First of all, they hit the corner room hard. Cordero Flott, Alante Taylor, Joshua Williams, all three of those guys. Are they, Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez? No, of course not. But corner was a huge, huge area of need, and they had the money, and they spent the money on corner. I commend them for that. But I picked them number 1 partially because of one particular signing, one of my favorite signings in all free agency. They got John Franklin Myers at 3 years, $63 million. One of my favorite defensive tackles in the entire NFL. Pairing him up with Jeffrey Simmons, I think that they've vaulted up the NFL ladder in terms of best interior defenders, joining the likes of the Patriots and the Seahawks, who were just in the Super Bowl. I love that pick. Again, they filled holes, they addressed areas of need, and I think they hit a few home runs. So I'm in love with what the Titans did, and I don't know if you're looking right now, but they did just get new uniforms. So I'm feeling like a winner right now in Tennessee.
I don't think those are home runs. I don't. And it's not entirely their fault. The issue is I love the Oilers uniforms, and now these aren't the Oilers. Like, these just are the Oilers.
These are Oilers
with the Titans pasted over them.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't feel special anymore. It feels like the Titans are. I don't. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't really know how to describe it.
I get what you're saying, but I also love the Oilers uniforms so much.
No, I do. They're my favorite uniforms ever.
Yeah, and I think it's funny when the Texans get mad that the Titans wear the Oilers uniform. It's like, dude, they were the Oilers. They moved to Tennessee. They became the Titans. Then the Houston Texans. That's a whole different franchise. You cannot just whatever. But no, I mean, they are Oilers adjacent, and they just went back to them. So I'm with it. I like it.
I think the uniforms themselves are really, really nice. I just kind of hate the concept, I
Yeah.
guess, because it is
You
literally
hate the
just the
principle
Oilers
of it, yeah.
uniforms where they just got rid of everything that was Oiler and replaced it with Titan, which
I
made a really nice product. But I
yeah.
kind of just hate the concept of doing that. But that's besides the point. It's a snake draft. You get the next pick here, and you're talking about another team that has went through their fair share of rebranding over the past decade.
Yeah, no, safe to say that I'm definitely taking Tennessee in the rebrand draft over Washington over these last few years. But now I want to talk about another team that I thought did a really good job in free agency. Again, didn't necessarily they didn't put themselves in a bad spot, and I think I look at a lot of the things that the Washington Commanders did, and I know I talked about him earlier in the episode, but Adafe Owe, I like him as a player. He's always had great potential. I know that he hasn't had the biggest sack numbers. I know he's not the best run defender. I get it. I know. They were so desperate at edge. Locking up one of the top guys in the market to me was a good sign. Chiga Kwanku, really, I think a quality signing for them. I've always been a good fan of a big fan of Chigakwanku. Never thought he had necessarily the quarterback situation to really thrive. I think he's one of the more athletic tight ends in the NFL. They re-signed Laramie Tunsil, $30 million. Which, by the way, we want to talk about Kirk Cousins as the all-time bag getter at quarterback. Laramie Tunsil is the Kirk Cousins of left tackles. He's a bag chaser. Look at it like Clavon Chaseon had a really good year with the Patriots, signs a one-year deal. To me, that's a low-risk, high-reward if he can repeat what he did in New England last year. Obviously, he's playing with the worst defensive line. They got Amik Robinson, Leo Chanel, Nick Cross. Nick Cross is a guy that I was really fired up about as one of those like bargain bin free agents. Leo Chanel playing on a 3-year, $24.75 million deal. They need a Bobby Wagner replacement. They need a guy who has some more fresh legs. So I think you look at a lot of the holes on this team, what held them back last year, other than Jaden Daniels being hurt. And I look at linebacker. I looked at their lack of pass rush. I mean, they signed. I'm reading 4 edge rushers: Dietrich Wise, Charles
Yep.
Omenihu, Odafe Owe, Clavon
They
Chaseon.
needed it. They
They
needed
signed.
it.
They signed some guys in the offensive line: Trent Scott, Andrew Wiley. Like they hit the holes hard. And
Yeah.
I think that they are going to convince themselves that what 2023 was with Jane Daniels was what we are as a team. We just need to raise our floor. And by raising their floor, Jane Daniels can help them get to their ceiling. So I liked what their strategy was. I liked addressing all of your holes and just kind of spamming all of your positions of need, which is basically exactly what they did.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But let's talk about another quarterback in that draft class and how their team is trying to build around them because the New England Patriots are my second pick. And I mean, it comes down to five signings here for me. The least relevant, but I think still kind of a key one, is Reggie Gilliam, the fullback. We know Josh McDaniels is willing to use the fullback position. Reggie Gilliam can block, but he could also be used as a utility guy. He's going to play a role here. He's getting paid $4 million a year. He's going to contribute when they're on the goal line, right? He's going to play a role on this team. But now for the bigger boys, right? Kevin Byard, he had a pretty good year with the Bears last year. Very good year with the Bears. Kevin Byard was very solid in coverage, and he reminds me a lot of like a Devin McCourty in the sense of he just plays up at his high safety spot. You don't really hear his name a bunch because people don't really throw his way. Last year, teams were throwing his way. You know what happened? They got picked off a lot. Kevin Byard is still a very good coverage player, and he's a veteran for this team that loves to have older, more experienced players on the defensive side of the ball, but still very athletic players. And that's why they went with Draymond Jones, adding him as an edge rusher. Can also play a little bit on the interior. Just a versatile piece for this defensive line to toy around with. They're already great on the interior. Rotate him in a little bit on the interior, have him mainly at edge. They lost Kayvon Chaseon. He's going to be there to really help replace him. I really like Draymond Jones and what he's capable of. I know that's a name that has kind of lost a lot of value recently, but I'm telling you, his tape is still very high caliber. Elijah Vera Tucker, another name that has fell off as of late, but that's because of constant injuries. Last year, he got injured before the season started, but when he is on the field, he is one of the best offensive linemen in the league. Like he is that good. He is great as an interior offensive lineman, Elijah Vera Tucker. He just needs to stay healthy. Romeo Dobbs, adding him at wide receiver. If they're able to add another wide receiver here, I feel really good about that offensive unit. And even if it is just Romeo Dobbs, I really like Drake May and what he's capable of. I think this offense can carve people up, and the defense is going to be just as solid as it was last year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like the Patriots a lot. I think when you look at just what they did, and they released Stephon Diggs, which was I think an intriguing move, and then I thought, wow, they're gonna have to go be really aggressive for a guy like an Alec Pierce, or maybe go and get like a Mike Evans, and they kind of went with the cheaper option, which was Romeo Dobbs. And again, you're probably getting. Especially with Alec Pierce, you're probably getting 80% of his production for like a quarter of the price. So I think that was a good move. I did like that. When I look at New England, though, I do wonder what they're going to do now with pick 31 because of the moves they made in free agency. They got a receiver, especially. Do they now take that pick and have they afforded themselves the freedom to take that pick and go get AJ Brown or go get Maxx Crosby or go get XYZ superstar player? I think their free agency, what it accomplished was fill the holes and gave them freedom with pick 32, whether that's, again, trading it for a superstar player or using it just to be able to take the best player available. So from that regard, I really like it. I also like it when teams have a very successful year and don't sit on their hands and don't say, oh, we'll run it back. We're running back to squad next year. That's not how it works in the NFL. You have to always be on your toes, always be aggressive. Patriots were aggressive, and so I like their free agency cycle as well. But you now are back on the clock with your third and final pick. Tell me, Patrick, who was your third team that you loved their free agency class?
Another one that kind of just comes down to the top end guys that they brought in, the Chargers. I mean, they were like some of these guys, man. Charlie Kolar, I think, is some of the best value that was available in all free agency this year. A truly spectacular blocker. One of the best blocking tight ends in the league right now. He got paid 3 years, $24 million. It's for a reason, right? He may not be the best receiver on earth, but he paves rushing lanes. In a Mike McDonald outside zone heavy scheme, you need someone on the end that could block. Kolar could absolutely do that. You also need speed at the running back position. That's why they brought in Keaton Mitchell, who is a hell of a runner. I mean, he has speed without a doubt. Complementing Omarion Hampton, that should be really fun to see. Tyler Biotis, bringing him into play center, I think that'll be fine, along with Cole Strange. They're just bolstering up the interior because if you remember last year just how bad they were on the interior, it was terrible. It was terrible. Now they're getting better there. They're going to recover. They're going to be a really good offense next year. Do not have any doubts about it. Alec Ingold also coming back, someone that's familiar with Mike McDonald. I mean, I'm keeping it very simple here. I'm keeping it very simple here. Mike McDaniel, sorry. I'm keeping it very simple here in the sense of team that was bad on the interior offensive line last year, got better on the interior offensive line. Team that now has a new scheme, got the exact types of players it needs to execute that scheme. This is going to be one of the top 5 offenses in football next year. Lock it in. Lock it in. They already have the receivers. They bolstered up the interior. The tackles are going to be healthy. Justin Herbert is going to have a career year under Mike McDaniel. I have no doubts about it.
So I found it interesting that you brought up Justin Herbert without saying the word if. Seems to be a weird thing these days for the if man. No, I'm just kidding. But I've loved what the Chargers have done all offseason. You're right. Bring in Mike McDaniel. I make that same mistake. Don't you worry about it. Bring in Mike McDaniel, who
We all do. We all.
is one of the
That's the biggest nuisance of watching the
Mike
league right
McDonald is
now.
my coach, and I still call him Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, there's
every
too
fifth
many
time.
McDaniels,
Yeah.
McVays now,
Yeah.
and then there's the 2 LaFleurs. It's
Yeah.
annoying.
And they both have the same haircut. It's just really annoying. But no, I've liked what they've done. They're building the image in Mike McDaniel's. They're building the offensive Mike McDaniel's image, bringing in a fullback, bringing in a super fast running back. I can safely say that we're probably not going to see a whole lot of Najee Harris next year, which I think is probably for the better. But you're right. Omarion Hampton is going to be, I think, Thunder, and then Lightning is going to be Keaton Mitchell. I expect Keaton Mitchell to have, good amount of carries this year. I really do. He's a bargain bin in terms of like the AAV, but I do think he's going to play a big role in this Chargers offense. I was very excited when I saw him. But I want to talk less about quantity and more about quality for my third team because they made 2 of the biggest free agent additions. Didn't do really much outside of that, but I wanted to bring them up for the simple fact that I think if both of their big ticket free agent moves pay off, they could have struggled twice. and that is with Jalen Phillips and, of course, Devin Lloyd going to the Carolina Panthers. I want to start with Devin Lloyd. One of the best deals in free agency, I think, hands down. Getting Devin Lloyd, who is the top linebacker on the market, 3 years, 45 million, just 25 million fully guaranteed. I don't know where the market for Devin Lloyd went, but it clearly wasn't with the NFL and with the other 31 other teams. Getting him
Crazy.
on that deal when other linebackers like who, well, I don't want to spoil it. I'll bring them up
We
later, but
we saw Quay Walker get paid more than him.
Quay Walker get paid more. There's other linebackers that I think are significantly worse that got paid in a similar tax bracket. And to me, that's ridiculous. So I want to congratulate the Carolina Panthers. That was one of my favorite signings. And then Jalen Phillips. It's 4 years. It's $120 million. It's a lot of money. But Jalen Phillips, to me, has the highest ceiling out of any edge rusher that was in free agency. And that includes Trey Hendrickson because of his age. If they're able to get a healthy Jalen Phillips, the guy that we saw be a real disruptor down the stretch for Philadelphia last year, this is a home run hit. I don't care about the price tag at that point. This is a home run hit. This is a young edge rusher who is going to be a force multiplier for your defense. They had trouble at linebacker last year. They had trouble at edge rusher last year, and they potentially just solved both of those biggest needs with A-plus moves. Now, the Jalen Phillips move comes with a lot of risk. I understand, but I'm choosing to be optimistic. I'm choosing to say if this move works out, they are probably my favorite in the NFC South. And I want to congratulate them on the Devin Lloyd pick. I thought that was ridiculously smart. So again, not so much quantity, but more quality with the Carolina Panthers because I think they potentially just hit two Grand Slam home runs.
I think it's just a little bit concerning with Phillips. It feels like they paid him as if the injury history didn't exist. That is the concerning thing because he does have a legitimate injury history. We'll see what develops out of that because the Panthers can become a very good team. But now I want to move over to a very interesting exercise, and we head into some superlatives for individual free agent signings. I love the superlative game. I always do. I always think it's a nice little thought exercise where we get to kind of look at things from different perspectives and really come up with these big takes that aren't really that big in actuality. Something along the line of, most reasonable overpay is one that we're going to be discussing, or, you know, the most improved defense. It allows us to look kind of in the grand scheme of things, but also really keep it specific to one team or one situation, one signing. But let's start with a very general one. What do you think is the best signing?
It's Kobe Bryant. It's Kobe Bryant. And I know I probably
How much of
jinxed
that
it.
is the Bears fan in you? How much of that is
Uh,
the Bears and Seahawks
actually,
fan in you?
actually, it's I was gonna say it's more the Seahawks fan in me because Kobe Bryant's a player who never really got his full flowers. He was, the 10th most popular player on the defense, and to his dismay, when he got hurt last year, his backup Ty Okada came in and played more than fine. So there was a little bit of kind of just the washing away of what Kobe Bryant was as a safety and what he was as a player. I thought he was really good. I still think he's really good. And the Bears not only had a big need at safety, but they got him for a pretty good price. 3 years, 40 million. It's not bad at all. So I think when you combine the player being underrated, the team having a huge need, and the contract not being crazy, I thought all things considered, Kobe Bryant was probably the best signing of free agency. I really do. I was a big fan of this move for the Bears, and I have not been a fan of a lot of the Bears moves, which I will get into later. So I'm giving them their flowers while I can.
I like Kobe Bryant. I think it's fair to say, what he's going to add as like this safety who, he's not going to allow all the receptions we saw Nashawn Wright let up. Let's just say that, right? He's going to be a lot better at being more cautious here. I think that's the big thing. Uh, with me, it's someone you
I
just
think
mentioned.
I think the thing that I like most about the fit with the Bears is they tried to play Jaquan Brisker, and we saw this in the playoff game. They tried to play Jaquan Brisker in kind of this like hybrid role that we saw like with Nicky Manwari, right? Where it was he's going to play some linebacker, he's going to come off the edge, he's going to be deep safety, kind of playing him all over like a chess piece. And Jaquan Brisker wasn't consistent enough nor healthy enough to really do that at an elite level. I think Kobe Bryant has the ability to do that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays slot. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays deep safety. He's a bit small to put him in the box regularly, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's at the line of scrimmage. So his versatility, I think, goes really underrated because Seattle has a defense with 20 versatile players. So you don't really notice when it's one of the guys, the guy with the basketball name, right? So I really like the fit with the Bears and what he's going to be able to do just as a chess piece moving around.
And the Dennis Allen system, there's some similarity in terms of what you like to run there. For me, I went with someone you just mentioned. Devin Lloyd going to the Panthers, man. 15 mil a year for someone who, I mean, with Fred Warner out, he might have been the best off-ball linebacker in the league. I mean, who do you argue ahead of him? He was right there. If it's not
Yeah,
him, he was in the discussion.
probably was him. I mean, Ernest Jones, they're different styles, but Ernest Jones, you could
Yeah.
say, was really good. But I think by and large, it was Devin Lloyd was the best,
Yeah,
inside
he
backer
was
all year last year.
unbelievable. And the
Yeah,
fact he even hit free agency was kind of shocking.
yeah,
But then he hit the market and he got paid 15 million. Just 15 million? Really? And I get it. It was kind of a 1 year out of nowhere type of
yeah,
thing. Like he wasn't always a great player. But still, I think at a certain point, you kind of just have to look at the film you saw last year and say, why can't it happen again? And the answer is really there is no reason. So the fact
yeah,
it was just 15 million to keep this guy around, on a 3-year deal, 15 million per year. I love that. I really do love that for a Panthers team that needs this guy. That really does need a guy like him that can play coverage at a high level, get some interceptions too. I mean, he's a playmaker. This is exactly what the Panthers need, and they got it at a perfect price.
yeah. I thought it was so interesting because we talked in our free agency preview episode where we're like, hey, if you're the Jaguars, you got to pick Devin Lloyd, Travis Etienne, yeah, and they got neither. And it was like, okay, I mean, Travis Etienne got 13 million AAV and Devin Lloyd got 15. I really would have been surprised had the Panthers or had the Jaguars not offered him at least 15 million. Like something's just
But at least
fishy
they
there.
got Chris Rodriguez.
Hey,
Woo!
Chris Rodriguez, baby. Yeah, no, that was pretty disastrous for Jacksonville. But I want to talk about a player or a transaction, I suppose, that doesn't make sense financially, but you can overlook it just because the player and the team fit. We're now, of course, talking about the most reasonable overpay. I'm going to start with Tyler Linderbaum, right? Tyler Linderbaum, when you look at it, it is absolutely an overpay. He is making $27 million AAV. You know what the next highest center is making? 18. That's Creed Humphrey, who's probably a better player than he is, although you can have that argument. Regardless, when you blow out the market like Tyler Linderbaum did, that is cause for some concern. I won't lie. That is cause for some red flags to be raised. However, when it's a team like the Raiders that does it, which is enormously flush with cash. Well, they're 30 million less flush with cash after the Maxx Crosby trade, but whatever. When they're enormously flush with cash, when they have a huge need on their offensive interior line, and they have the presumptive number one pick Fernando Mendoza coming in to pair with. I totally understand this from the Raiders' perspective, why they needed to do it. I'm sure they had to overpay him to convince him to not sign with New England or Baltimore or whoever, wherever he was going to sign. They had to be the highest bidder. They had to pull him away by giving him an offer that he couldn't refuse. So, yeah, this is a reasonable overpay for the Raiders. Is it too much money? Yeah, probably. But I don't care because Tyler Linderbaum's a Raider, and my gosh, you have a lot more faith in their offense now with Tyler Linderbaum and silver and black.
It has some negative effects on the other 31 teams. Not
Mm-hmm.
you. It doesn't affect you.
You don't got to
You,
pay a center now for a few years, so you're good.
yeah, and you're paying the best one in the league potentially,
Yeah,
or if he's
for the
not
most
the
part.
best, second best, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
got your guy, right? And you are, you're not going to have to deal with like the real world of the NFL in 5 years because you're going to have Fernando Mendoza. And I mean, nothing's ever a guarantee, but we're expecting him to be the starting quarterback for the Raiders for multiple years.
Yeah, especially
Uh,
because they traded Geno. He'll be the starter.
yeah, well, and just in general, he is the long-term quarterback. It is safe to slot in for the next 5 years. Fernando Mendoza will be the Raiders franchise
Yeah, I don't.
quarterback.
I'm not going to get into this conversation now, but I don't know if Fernando Mendoza is the savior, but I don't think. I definitely don't think he's going to be a
Well,
bust.
and it's just like when a team drafts the a quarterback number one overall. Listen, I know I'm a pessimist. And I get a terrible rep, but even a guy like me is going to say, I expect this to go a few years.
Yeah.
Even if I don't
Yeah.
love the player, I expect it to go a few years.
Yep.
Even Tua sucked and he lasted a few years. So,
He got
like,
extended.
yeah, the Raiders don't have to deal with the real NFL world until, 2031.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about cap space until then, really. I mean, that's what they're looking at. Linderbaum, like, he's a good player that's going to add a lot to their team, and they're going to get more out of Genti because of him. I think that's the big thing. Now, I went with Wan'Dale Robinson just because this is a team that, I mean, last year, Cam Ward was thrown in nothing but day 3 picks.
Yeah, he was
Nothing
throwing
but
to you and me last year. That's who he was throwing
yeah.
to.
He needed legitimate weapons, and I don't think it's going to stop here. I think they're going to add receivers in the draft. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to make his job easier. He's someone that can catch the ball and just run with it and make a 5-yard pass into a, potentially a 15-yard gain after the catch in ways that some of these other receivers like Manor really couldn't. And that's no offense to Manor, but let's just be honest. You need someone to help your quarterback out. Wan'Dale Robinson, even though he's not a great receiver, even though he's not really worth the $17 million, he's a starting caliber guy. Cam Ward hasn't been able to throw to an NFL starting caliber guy yet. And even if you drafted a guy in the first round, he's not an NFL receiver yet. You now have an NFL receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson. I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah, I like your point about drafting a guy who's probably more talented, probably better future outlook. But you're right, he is not an NFL receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson is certified NFL receiver. I talked about the Titans and how much I love their draft class. Wan'Dale Robinson was a part of that. Now let's talk about a free agent selection that we didn't like. And I'm gonna go pretty balls to the walls here because this is a player that I've known to be a hater about, and I've been hating on him probably for 7 years, and I've loved every second of it. That's Daniel Jones, man. I don't know why the Indianapolis Colts extended him. I don't. I've talked to you before. I think the risk with his Achilles injury is severe, especially for a quarterback that relies so much on his athleticism. I think Daniel Jones in general is really not a quarterback that I've seen consistently prove to me that he can play high-level football. Yeah, he was great for 7 weeks for the Colts last year, but there were some signs of him falling off even before the Achilles injury. All things considered, and especially what the market was for a couple of these other guys, I would have liked it a lot better if they went out and got Malik Neighbors. I would have liked it a lot better if they traded for Geno Smith. Hell, I would have loved it if they signed a guy that I'm about to talk about in a few minutes that I won't get into just yet. But I thought, bang for your buck, even just straight up, who would I rather have? I thought Daniel Jones was a big swing for them, and I don't think that it was a good one. I don't have a lot of faith in this Daniel Jones thing working out in Indianapolis long term. And they gave him, a pretty decent chunk of change. It's not top dollar, but it's a lot closer to top dollar than some of these other guys in this market got.
The only thing that concerns me about Jones, I'm going to be honest, in the Colts system, let alone what he's done at other places, the only thing that concerns me about him is the injuries. That's the only thing. Because when Jones was fully healthy this year, this offense, in terms of efficiency, in terms of points per drive, was up there with the 2007 Patriots, was up there with the 2018 Chiefs.
But was that because of Daniel Jones? That's my question.
No, but can you just put Kyler Murray in there? Like, at a certain point, you have to acknowledge, just because the quarterback is a cork in the system doesn't mean you can just get rid of the cork entirely, right? There's nothing wrong with paying a system quarterback, especially because this is a deal that it's a 2-year deal. If it goes wrong, okay, it's 1 more year.
But okay. They clearly position themselves with their transactions in the last calendar year to say we are in our window right now. And does Daniel Jones, present day, with the Achilles, with his limitations as a player, give you the best chance to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years?
Can I remind you of what happened with Sam Darnold? With the Vikings, everyone said, "Oh yeah,
well, Sam Darnold
this is a team positioned to win a Super Bowl." I mean, he wasn't coming off of a torn Achilles. Okay,
that's the big.
But I don't. So, I think there's some truth to that, but at the same time, how much weight do you really put into that?
I get your point of Sam Darnold was seen as a system quarterback, and
then they tried to replace him, and then the Vikings are now
I understand that point, but I don't agree. I don't agree. I think the Vikings the Vikings transaction of Sam Darnold this past year looked horrible, A, because the Seahawks won the Super Bowl with an incredibly elite defense, A, and B,
and because McCarthy
J.J. McCarthy is horrible. But J.J. McCarthy,
that was the thing. Oh, it's just a cork. It's just one part of the system. So you could put whoever.
He was
you could put me out
anomaly
there.
in terms of how bad he was. I'm not saying put me or you out there. I'm saying get a certified veteran quarterback that is of similar caliber to Daniel Jones and pay him 80% less.
You think Kirk Cousins could leave a
No, I didn't say Kirk Cousins. I said Geno Smith could lead that offense. I believe so, yes.
At the level that at the level that Daniel Jones was early in the year, which was
He was playing point guard. I
historically
don't think that
efficient.
he was. I don't know that Daniel Jones was the one whose success they depended on. Now, when they had to go to a 40-year-old, a 45-year-old Phillip Rivers, shit, he even ran the offense pretty well. So, like, I'm not saying that you go back to Phillip Rivers, but what I'm saying is when you look at the cost, especially after you just gave Alec Pierce all the money you did, that's a separate transaction. I know I can't use it as part of my argument, but this to me, they could have saved a lot of money. Okay, here's this. They traded away Michael Pittman. Would you rather have Geno Smith, Michael Pittman, and Alec Pierce, or pay Daniel Jones when you paid him and not have Michael Pittman?
I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. No.
I think again, like it
I
kind of depends on what you think of him coming off the injury. Like
Again,
how
his
much do
running
you
back
think
played
that
like he
affects
was
his
MVP of the
game?
league for the first half of the year. No wonder why they were so efficient. Like I don't.
If you think that Daniel Jones is going to be the player that he was at the start of last year, which isn't the greatest quarterback on earth, okay, well, fair. How much do you expect him to regress? Major?
Oh,
If
yeah,
you
I mean,
expect it to be like major regression, then okay, I get what
Kirk
you're saying.
Cousins
But that's
couldn't
entirely
plant and
speculation.
throw an out route with his torn Achilles, and he is not a guy that depends on his athleticism. He couldn't.
Kirk Cousins
They
is also a
couldn't
lot
run.
older.
Yes, but in fairness, we don't have an example recently of a young guy tearing his Achilles. But Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins could not move after tearing their Achilles, and Daniel Jones is a guy who depends on his athleticism to move. So to me, I'm like, I
don't
don't
know.
see this. I don't see this working at all.
I think it depends. It depends on your expectation coming off of the injury. That's where I stand. As for who I went with Zion Johnson.
Yeah,
And it's not because I don't get it. Like I understand that the Browns literally lost their entire offensive line. That being said, you paid one of the worst starting guards in the league $50 million for 3 years. He's terrible. Just because you pay him $50 million doesn't mean he's going to play like he's worth $50 million. This is the most Cleveland Browns move I've ever seen. And it sucks because I like the Elton Jenkins move. I liked adding Titus Howard. I hate Zion Johnson. He's a terrible player. He's just generally terrible. And maybe things will change now. He is kind of young, but so far he's shown very little improvement. Just generally, it is that simple. He's a bad player that they paid a lot of money.
yeah, it is a good market to be a guard, man. I'm telling you, you just play the position, you're getting 15 million a year. It is
Feels that way.
unbelievable. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like Zion Johnson at all. I don't think that he is a particularly good player. But a player I want to talk about now, transitioning into somebody who's a boom or bust. And I mentioned him as my third pick in my favorite free agency class draft. Jalen Phillips. I talked about the good with Jalen Phillips. Here's some of the bad. Jalen Phillips had to medically retire in college because of injuries. Came to the NFL and has dealt with a boatload of injuries since then as well. Jalen Phillips has never had a single season above 7.5 sacks. When I say that out, when I say those two things out loud, it sounds asinine to give that guy $30 million. I completely understand, but I'll tell you, the film of Jalen Phillips when he is healthy and when he is fully calibrated, he's a really good player. So if you're talking about a boom or bust, you're talking about a guy with his ability, with his age, with his injury history, the money they're giving him. He's the definition of boom or bust. This could blow up in their face, and this could be a $100 million mistake, or they could have just acquired one of the best young pass rushers in the NFL. Hopefully, it's on the top end of that, but I acknowledge this could blow up in their face, but this could also be a franchise-altering transaction in free agency.
Yeah, and that's why they did it. I mean, listen, this is a team that knows that they're in a playoff window, strangely enough, and they want to take advantage of that by adding a game-changing defensive player, potentially, right? We'll see if he actually is that, but he has the ability to be. We know that for a fact. Now, I went with someone on the offensive side of the ball. I went with Ken Walker,
Mm.
right? Ken Walker, a little bit of concern is, at the running back position in a Mahomes offense where you're kind of weak at the receiver spot. Travis Kelce's only getting older. How much can he really be an impactful guy? We've never seen Ken Walker be a 3-down player, right? We know that, or we don't really know it, but we've kind of assumed for a while he's been on a snap count because teams have been worried. Coaches and offensive coordinators have been worried about him not being able to deal with a full workload. But if he can be a Kareem Hunt And Andy Reid knows how to work him into this offense in a way where every single play, he's like this go-to guy. We can see him ball out like one of the best running back seasons ever. That type of season. We can see this guy light up scoreboards if Mahomes and him really have that connection, because we know he could be a weapon in the receiving game. We know Andy Reid could design ways for guys to get open in in open space. We can see some great things happen here with Ken Walker potentially. We could also see him be kind of a forgettable ad, though. It is kind of how I look at this.
Yeah, I'm with you on the boom. I don't really get the bust though. I think this is a team that has really, in the entire Mahomes era, they have not been an explosive running game at all. Now, a few years they've been efficient, but they've never really been explosive. I think this is by far the best running back he's ever played with in his career, and that's including Kareem Hunt, who you made the comparison to. I think you got to use a little bit more creativity. I think this has kind of uh, Bijan Robinson in Atlanta vibes, where it is he's our best playmaker. We're going to find him the ways to get the ball. We're going to send him out wide. We're going to throw him screens. We're going to toss it to him. We're going to run option. We're going to run zone. We're going to run toss, like whatever we're going to do. Andy Reid, I think, is going to really have fun utilizing Kenneth Walker. Unless your argument is, hey, he's going to get hurt, he's a running back, which you could say about basically everybody. I don't really know how this blows up in Kansas City's face.
Well,
I mean, I think that this
I
is a
wouldn't
thing that
say I wouldn't say blows up as much as it is kind of, oh yeah, I forgot he signed there, because he
okay.
ends up on such a crazy snap count. And even when he gets the ball, he just doesn't get the explosives that we know he's capable of. Because that's how it is with Ken Walker. He's either getting explosives or it's nothing crazy,
I
right?
think the biggest thing that could happen for this Chiefs offense is if they are able to get defenses out of that too high shell, right? Bring down some guys in
Mhm.
the box to really respect the running game with Kenneth Walker. I think we're going to go back to seeing the bombs away Patrick Mahomes. Now, they need to
Yeah.
get some help at receiver, yes. But I really do think that Kenneth Walker is going to be a lightning rod for their offense. And I'm very, very excited to, see what he's going to be able to do for them. But I want to talk about the most improved total offense. And to me, this is a recent development that's happened, earlier today. I assumed it was going to happen, but we didn't have official confirmation. To me, the most improved offense is the Minnesota Vikings for the one simple reason that they got the biggest quarterback upgrade out of any team. Last year, the
Mm.
Minnesota Vikings, they went 9-8. Now it's kind of a fugazi 9-8 because they were at 4-8 at one point, and then they kind of like won all their games down the stretch, and people kind of like looked at it in the year and they're like, oh my gosh, the Vikings went 9-8. They went 9-8. They did that despite having what was unironically the worst quarterback play in the entire NFL. J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, Carson Wentz, they weren't doing it in 2025. You add a guy like Kyler Murray, who I'm not saying is going to go back to Oklahoma Heisman winning Kyler Murray. I'm not saying he's going to go back to the early days with Cliff in 2021. But if Kyler Murray can be the 20th best quarterback, do you know how much of a massive upgrade they just made to a defense that is already phenomenal? And I know I'm just talking offense, but to a defense that's already phenomenal, who kept Brian Flores, who an offense who has legitimate weapons everywhere. I think that this quarterback upgrade was so massive that it vaulted them to me to be the most improved offense because last year, if J.J. McCarthy played like the 20th best quarterback in the NFL, they probably win 11 or 12 games. So to me, the Vikings made a massive, massive improvement. The bonus is they did it for like $1 million, which is exactly what the Colts should have done. But besides the point, the Minnesota Vikings were the most improved offense because they had the biggest, by far, improvement at the quarterback position.
If they could find a way to make the O'Connell system work, I think that becomes the question,
Well, they got
right?
4
How do you
months.
marry, huh?
They got 4 months. Get on the whiteboard. Start drawing some
Yeah,
stuff
you're
up.
right, and that's where you trust Kevin O'Connell. But you
Yeah.
do have to find a way to marry two very different systems, right? The spread offense that Kyler Murray is so used to, that's way more off script, and the more orchestrated offense, the timing based offense that Kevin O'Connell likes to run. You have to find a way to marry those two offenses in a way that keeps Kyler Murray comfortable. Kyler
Yeah.
Murray is not a very orthodox quarterback. He is very very unnatural. He plays the position in a very unique way. Kevin O'Connell has to tenure the offense in a way that works for him. Now, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray's old team, the Arizona Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I really struggled with this. I was looking at a lot of teams, and none of them really shouted at me. None of them did. I don't think any offense really upgraded like hugely. But This was the team where I saw the most individual signings. I was like, I like that. Oh, in the context of this team, I like that. Oh, that's a good one. Just to name a few, Isaac Sayamalu as a guard, they need guard help. And he is a fine offensive guard that can go out there. He could do some of the pulling guard stuff they like to do. Now, I know the offense should be different this year. No Drew Petzing, but Sayamalu is a nice guard that can really fit a multitude of schemes. Tyler Algier is a nice running back. James Conner coming off a major injury. How much longer does he got? I really like Algier and what he's shown. I'm excited to see what he looks like, even if he doesn't have a full workload. Him working in with Trey Benson and some of those other running backs, that should be really fun to see. Then Gardner Minshew fighting with Jacoby Brissett. I know that sounds crazy to say like that. That's what made this the great offensive offseason that it is. But I mean, really, if you're trying to evaluate an offensive roster here, you need to have solid quarterback play. And when you have Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett fighting over a quarterback spot, I would say you're guaranteed to at least get fine quarterback play. I would say you're guaranteed it. And then Kendrick Bourne is the biggest one. He was so good for Mac Jones. So good for Mac Jones as a weapon. He's a great route runner who really knows how to get open versus zone coverage. The Cardinals adding that as the third wide receiver next to Marvin Harrison and next to Michael Wilson can be great. It really can be great as a trio of receivers along with Trey McBride. I really like the direction that the Cardinals are going in. Not that I think they'll be a great offense this year, but I think these are some pieces I look at and I'm like, yeah, those are good ads in context of the team.
Yeah, I think personally the issue with the Cardinals for me in terms of improving their offense is I don't know that any of those guys are like high impact players.
They're not.
Like if Kyler is a average quarterback, he's a significant upgrade. Do we think that any of those guys scream like significant upgrade
No,
to
but they
what?
didn't pay crazy money to any of them.
No, they didn't, and you're right. I think you're right. Like when I was looking at this, like when I was looking at this question, I was kind of thinking like, no offense has really jumped the page to me and be like, wow, they made massive strides. Like they made huge improvement. So I did go with the team that I thought made the improvement at the biggest position possible. Now let's transition to defense. I want to get into this because I
Can
think
I
the
just
answer.
say, I'm looking at the rundown here. We agreed no trades. So please make your argument here without mentioning Trent McDuffie.
Oh man, I totally forgot about our no trade thing. I'm gonna be honest. Hey, Jalen Watson is a good signing. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. Jalen Watson is a good signing. You got me on the most. I was thinking off season, so that's my mistake. Listen, it's been a long week. There's a lot of names flying around. USA is losing to Italy in baseball. I don't know what's going on anymore. But yeah, Jalen Watson, man, great player, great player. No, you why don't since you know everything, why don't you step up to the plate, give me your defense, and then I'll swap out my picks.
No,
While
no,
I'm
no,
on
no,
camera.
no. Still go with the Rams because in all seriousness, like, yeah,
It's
they
Trey, yeah, Trey
they,
McDuffie's
they
the
are
real.
the best. They made the biggest jump.
It's
They added
because
one
yeah,
of the best players in at the corner position when they were the one of the most
yeah,
corner needy teams in football.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a
That's
slam dunk.
yeah. That's the I think that's the cockiest I've ever seen you. We're like, please tell me how the Rams improved without Trent McDuffie. I'm like, all right, you got me. But no, I mean, for a team that was Super Bowl caliber and everybody's darling to go win the Lombardi, their biggest Achilles heel was punt returning, apparently, both ways, and the inability to cover anybody on the back end with their corners. And they signed two really good corners. You know, they traded for one, they gave him a big extension, and then they got Jalen Watson. So go get guys that have played for the Chiefs, played in a winning culture, played for Steve
Well,
Spagnuolo, won Super
it
Bowls. Like
the scheme fits directly.
exactly, like I
It's a
like
perfect fit.
it
If
is
you want to
perfect
be this
fit.
more man coverage team, you got to go to the man coverage teams.
Yep.
You know,
And I think
and
Trent
Steve
McDuffie can
Spagnuolo
play
does that.
some outside. I know. I've heard mixed opinions on if people like Trent McDuffie playing outside. Personally, I think he's going to be fine. I think he can also play in the slot. I know you have other guys that you like. Cam Curl can play in the slot, and Kobe Durant. I get it. Probably he plays outside, but I think the Rams are very much improved. But Sid, please, I know you didn't include any trades, so you go ahead and please tell me who the most improved defense
Well,
is this year.
I'm gonna be very boring because we talked about them ad nauseum now with the Panthers. Because if Jalen Phillips is that guy, and he's the big if, he is the big if. If Jalen Phillips is that guy and Devin Lloyd, I mean, I have no doubts about Devin Lloyd being great. I know he's a one-season guy. The film spoke for itself. He's outstanding. They're going to be great. They're going to be outstanding on the defensive side of the ball. I also was thinking about maybe mentioning the Jets here. Just because of how many guys they added, they have to be better, right?
The problem with the Jets, though, is they're too old. I think the average age that they acquired this offseason was like 30.
I
Like,
don't
to
think
me,
it's terrible. Like, how many of those guys do you think age is a huge issue?
Minka Fitzpatrick. I know it's a trade. I know. Minka Fitzpatrick.
He's still fine.
He's 30, 31, whatever.
Yeah, but he's still a good player.
By the way, did you see his press conference today? The introductory. He looked like he was being held at gunpoint.
Yeah, he's on the Jets.
That's what happens when you get traded to New York. Okay, I'm so sorry, Minka Fitzpatrick. You don't deserve this. But
let's continue with the negativity. Let's move on to the worst free agent class.
I like this
in general. You're gonna stay in the AFC East. Go with the Buffalo Bills.
I am, and I have to pull up the list just so I don't fabricate the tomfoolery that occurred in Buffalo. Let me look right here. First off, I don't even need the list for this. I'm just gonna look in the camera and say Bradley Chubb. 3 years, 43
just
million.
Keep slamming your head against the wall, Brandon Beane. Please. I mean, just keep doing it over and over and over. Von Miller didn't work. Joey Bosa didn't work. Just keep doing it, man.
You know, they say if you do things the same way over and over again and expect a different result, you're clinically insane. But Brandon Beane is thinking that he's playing this 4D interdimensional chess where he's like, no. The next past his prime super veteran edge rusher, that'll be the guy that gets us over the top with the Buffalo Bills. All right, didn't work with Von Miller, one of the best pass rushers of our generation. To heck with him. Bradley Chubb, welcome to the Buffalo Bills. That was ridiculous. We talked about, again, no trades. DJ Moore, didn't like that either. D. Alford, 3-year deal, I thought was a little bit rich for him. Connor McGovern, I actually did mind Connor McGovern. I'm going to be honest. I actually thought that was pretty good. But the other thing is Dawson Knox, 3-year deal. I don't know that I want Dawson Knox on my team for the next 3 years. Like, Bradley Chubb was the big.
Kincaid.
Yeah, you have Dalton Kincaid, who you took in the first round. Brandon Beane, the good drafting Brandon Beane. So, all offseason when people were defending Brandon Beane, they said, well, he's not a great drafter, but he's like really good with the cap and where's that at? I don't see it. So,
if they were good with the cap, honestly, they'd have Maxx Crosby instead of Bradley Chubb.
I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, Buffalo fans. You're about a Josh Allen away from being one of the garbage dumpster franchise right now. Like you are. You better be kissing
I'll be
your
entirely
stars.
honest.
You better be kissing your lucky stars that you drafted that kid from Wyoming.
Because of how good they've been, I completely forgot how irrelevant they were most of my life. I really did. Like they're a terrible organization. But I'm going to wrap up this segment with my worst free agency class. And I am going to agree, right? I know earlier I was arguing with you, and I'm not going to lie. I was playing a little bit of my devil's advocate game.
You do like arguing with me. I've noticed that.
I don't love the Daniel Jones signing. I don't. All the reasons that I said are kind of my arguments for it. And I do partially believe those. But there is a part of me that says, really, $44 million? Like, that's where you had to go? Like, honestly, they should have kept him on the transition tag. Saw where he was here, and then, you know what, fine, you overpay him.
Yeah.
Then maybe
at that point, at least you know that he's recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then maybe, someone offers him a lot of money when he's on the transition tag, which I don't think many teams would do because teams don't want to waste time negotiating with players on the transition tag because most of the time you just match it anyway.
Exactly.
Right. I think that you put him on the transition tag, you pay him a little bit less unless someone tries to negotiate with him, then your price gets driven up. And if it goes up to $55 million, okay, yeah, you pay him $55 million. Look at their cap space this year. They have the money this year. It's the money down the line that's going to hurt them.
Yep.
In fact, I would say I would rather pay him a $60 million deal for just 1 year. Then pay him the contract he's currently on. So I would have just kept him on the transition tag.
Yeah.
And if someone bids, you match the bid because they have the cap space to do it.
Yeah, I think you add that with the Alec Pierce deal, which I know I'm sure you're getting to in a second. 4 years, $160 million.
No, and I agree.
this to me just reeks of a front office and a coaching staff that is just trying to save their jobs, right? They're not interested in necessarily taking a risk and doing something that could be better for the team in the future. They want to make sure the 2026 Colts are as good as possible, because if another season goes awry, like, I know you're out in Indianapolis and people aren't paying attention to you because you're a small media market, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Chris Ballard, your job's on the line, buddy. You better be good in 2026, because I'm done with the excuses with you. Shane Steichen, I'll give you maybe one more chance, but brother, you got to show me some results, okay? It's go time for Indianapolis, and I think a bigger story in this than people are considering is that, you know, obviously Mr. Irsay passed away a couple of seasons ago. Is the new ownership group going to be as patient as he was? I don't know. I don't know if his daughters are going to be as patient. So the Indianapolis Colts team, they seem like they're trying to rush, and be as good as they are in 2026. And I think as a result, they made some very poor financial decisions.
And also, there was something that felt very haphazard that no one's really talking about. Michael Pittman got traded for just a 7th rounder
Mm-hmm.
because they were so focused on trying to get him off, trade him. And it's just like, really?
Yeah.
Like, that's how that you
Exactly.
could only get a 7th rounder out of him? It felt like they took the first offer they found on the table.
And that's part of the pitfalls. See what I did there? Pitfall, Pittman. That's part of the pitfalls of trading away, or for signing a guy like Daniel Jones, is you don't have the money to pay him and Alec Pierce and continue to pay Michael Pittman, so you have to make a sacrifice. Just a 7th, you're right, I thought was very weird. Like, he wasn't making a whole lot. I think he was making $24 million a year. Obviously, the Steelers gave him a new deal, but just a poor offseason from Chris Ballard and the Indianapolis Colts front office, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. Listen, free agency is great because a lot of teams do a good job. A lot of teams are clearly doing a bad job. And there's some teams caught in the middle. I'm excited to kind of have more time to separate all of those from one another. That's all the time we have for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, Patrick Cipher, Mike DeFrancisco. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.